Greetings. Welcome to the Developing Dad podcast, where we bring the Bible to bear on culture, education, and the family. I'm your host, Michael J. Griffin Jr., and today we have another interesting episode. But before we get started, like, comment, subscribe, help me to build the channel. All right, what did Unc teach me? All right, now full disclosure, I've been wanting to produce this video for quite some time. Actually, around this time last year, it was shortly before Kevin Samuels died. But I didn't want to hop on the bandwagon. I sat on it for too long, and then he passed, and the firestorm of everything that happened after that, I was not trying to jump into that. So I just let all of this time pass. But I wanted to actually pay homage to him, because I think he did teach me some things, right? There's some things that I already knew that I'm, well versed in. I don't have some of the problems that a lot of the people that he was helping had. But I did recognize some very important lessons that he actually brought to the fore. So let's get to those. We're going to talk about them, right? First was he highlighted the acute problem with black relationships. We're in trouble, y'all. All right. Redefining of terms, feminism, what a marriage actually is. We don't understand what it's supposed to be. We have women who want to be the head when they have been designed to be the suitable helpers. They want men who don't want them, and they're continuing to pursue men who have no desire for them. Men and women, their valuation metrics are different. We have a lot of problems in the black community, and Kevin highlighted that by simply asking good questions and also being well informed about the issues at hand. But he would ask good questions. If you ever watched any of his long live streams, he would always open with a really nice monologue, and then he would open the phone lines up or open the chat up for those that would disagree with him, and he would always ask them, walk them down using the Socratic method of questioning, and hem them in so that they would not be able to escape the reality that what they wanted, whether man or woman, was not something that they could accomplish, or they had unrealistic expectations, and they would remain unfulfilled, right? Buy a dog and die alone, right? I mean, you essentially, and for men, he was telling them, you need to level up. If you want this type of woman, you need to be this type of man. Was it the CIA and the FBI, right? He would always introduce his shows that way. So one of the things that he taught me was we have a big problem. Again, for someone who's been married for 13 years and who isn't really dating and hasn't been in that world for quite some time and has no desire to go back into it, I'm not fully aware of how acute the problems are. But he brought that to the fore. He was able to show me that there may be, for my children, they're going to have to walk into this world, and I needed to start commenting on what was happening in the current state of black relationships, so that my children would be aware of how to bring the Bible to bear on these types of situations. All right. Second thing that he taught me was that there is a very large void when it comes to black fathers. And I'm not talking about just being there, right? We're not talking about the fatherless epidemic. I'm talking about the fact that there's some simple things that fathers are supposed to teach their sons and daughters that even men who are there aren't doing a good job of teaching them, right? Kevin Samuels didn't blow up until the Average at Best video, but he spent most of his time trying to help men to level up. Simple things like owning a pair of clippers and being able to do your own lining, right? Stuff like that, like using baby wipes instead of toilet paper, things like that, right? like dressing for success, image mattering, things like that. Like these are some things that should go without saying, that should be taught to young men early on. That the image that you project to the world will largely determine how people treat you, right? And he highlighted that with respect to the fact that he himself dressed very nicely, always presented himself well on camera, but we saw how many men didn't have this simple teaching. They weren't brought up with this, and it could have been due to a lack of the father being there, or it could have been that their fathers just didn't teach them these things, right? And we got a chance to see that Kevin Samuels blow up. There were people who were with him well before the Average at Best, but then because of the Average at Best, he gained a larger following of people who heard his message and were impacted by it in a way that affected them greatly. And that's why he got the nicknames Unc and Godfather, right? Because these men were looking up to him, and rightly so. They needed guidance. And then again, he was right in that sweet spot of being old enough to command respect and then still connected enough to that world of dating that he had some insight to offer. Okay. And again, it was just like the perfect storm of a situation, YouTube algorithm working, to promote those types of videos, and he hitting the ground running and switching up his content just at the right time. But he highlighted that there's an acute problem in the Black community when it comes to intimate teachings that a father is supposed to convey or relate to his sons. And Kevin Samuels filled that void for a lot of men online. And he taught me that it's actually possible to do that. All right. Now, this is the one thing, and just as an aside, there are going to be two other things that my members are going to get in a members only video. There were actually 5 things that I wanted to talk about, but I'm only going to talk about 3 for you non-paying folk. But there's a crisis when it comes to Black leadership. That's the thing that Kevin Samuels highlighted for me as well. Why do I say this? Because Kevin Samuels grew a following by being direct and, not pulling any punches and telling people things straight. Now, we have amongst Black leaders very few people who are willing to do that. Very few, right? We have, the shucking and jiving preachers, the ambulance chasing lawyers, the useless liberal politicians who are pandering, to the lowest common denominator. And there are very few people who are willing to tell it to you straight. Now, this is where Kevin Samuels was very much like our Lord and Master, Jesus Christ. When a situation called for him to be harsh, he was harsh. And if you need to go look up some scriptures, Matthew 23, Jesus talking to the disciples in John chapter 6, there's just so many things that, and don't even get started on some of the things he says in Revelation, right? But you need to be able to do both, be compassionate and understanding, but when the time comes for you to say something straight to the point, you need to be able to do it. And because our Black leaders haven't trained us, right? And then a lot of it is because we lack good fathers, right? Even in the fatherless epidemic, we lack a lot of good fathers, right? There are many, don't give me the anecdotes, I know that there are, but we lack a lot of good male leadership. And the Black community is suffering for it because they're looking to these men to give them the straight with no chaser. And they are unwilling to do that. And Kevin Samuels was willing to do that to both men and women. And I think that's where most of his growth happened, was because, yes, he was telling men hard things prior to his ascendance, but he was willing to tell women the same thing. You have unreal expectations and you are going to die alone. And again, we think that we've been so feminized in this culture that we think that we're supposed to be soft and affirming and comforting to everyone, even when they're in abject sin, and even when they're walking in a way that's going to lead to their destruction. We have to coax them out. But Jude, the last book, or the second to last book in the Bible, tells us some you need to snatch out of the fire. To others show mercy with fear. It's a both and situation. And I think what men really gravitated to about Kevin Samuels was that he was willing to tell women things that they weren't willing to hear for generations. And he gave men a voice that had long since been stripped from them through feminism, womanism, the family court system. All of these things are rigged against Black men and men in general. But Kevin Samuels highlighted that point, and he started a movement. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, I'm telling you all right now, I'm going to tell you this is going to be Kevin Samuels Heavy Week. I have like 4 videos planned about Kevin Samuels, and we're going to deal with some of his claims. I'm going to go back in time with some of my other stuff and talk about it, but it's all going to be relevant. So stick with me this week, right, as I get back into the groove of things. We did Just Pearly Week 2 weeks ago, we're about to do Kevin Samuels week this week, right? Because I think what he did was very relevant and it's very helpful. And I think some of these things need to be continually brought up so that we can improve as a community. All right. So I appreciate you all for riding with me through this video. Okay. And until next time, be on the alert, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. See y'all around. Bye.